In the beginning, God created man, and God created witches. God shared his power with the witches and said unto them, in his stead, they shall leave those humans who have become helpless. The witches heeded the word of God and thereby brought to accompany the humans with love and devotion. However, in the present day, little witches are seen as arsenal-loving creatures but as a harm to humanity. So instead of respect, humans started killing witches one after another. What's worse is, the humans even made the witches' final toll as a form of entertainment. In the Lydian Empire witch hunt celebration, the crowd cheers for the witches to die, and there is no sign of stopping. As a result, witches now don't see mankind as something that they have to protect. Instead, it has now become their enemy. Meanwhile, in the Lydian Empire Solsavia region, Ice Witch Chloe Morgan and witch apprentice Adonis are seen finding their way to the border. It seems like Chloe has no idea where they are going, and Adonis's legs are slowly getting stiff from all the walking, while the heat is also killing him slowly. Since Adonis couldn't take the heat anymore, he asked Chloe to use some magic just to cool them down. However, it seems like Chloe didn't want to step on her principles, saying her magic does not come that cheap. Chloe then argued that if he kept nagging her, she was going to leave him behind. But it seems like no one's leaving anyone since they are literally lost in the middle of nowhere. Out of boredom, Adonis then takes out a weird-looking device from his pocket. Immediately, Chloe tried to stop him from using any devices or their signal would get traced. Adonis then assured her that it is not a weird device since it's a smartphone that he made himself, so for sure the signal can't be traced. Adonis then went on to explain that the phone uses descriptor summoning magic to replace the transmission signal with interdimensional photons, so even if the army triangulates the signal, it won't give away their position. Besides, nowadays, paper maps and stuff are totally lame. That's why next time, Adonis will keep in mind to make something for Chloe as well. After saying such a joke, Adonis ended up getting a smack on the head from Chloe. Chloe then states that this is what he gets for being so full of himself. Since they are being pursued as they are speaking, from here on out until they cross the border, they decided to have no more unnecessary conversations. If they want to get back to their quiet, happy lives, then they have to find a country that will tolerate witches. Chloe also wants Adonis to attend a proper school, and maybe there he will be able to find a girl he might like. However, for Adonis, he doesn't need to go to school. As a witch, he would rather just continue being Chloe's apprentice. Chloe then tries to tease him, saying that he might actually prefer older women after all. As their conversation started to die down, Adonis then started to notice that Chloe always stays so calm, despite everything that is going on in their lives right now. So he asks if it doesn't bother her at all. Since he really hates the Lydian Empire so much, he can't even find the right word to describe it. He wishes he could destroy mankind with magic, so their suffering would finally end. After just a few seconds, the Imperial Border Patrol arrives. Adonis then went on ahead to say that he will take them all at once. However, Chloe stops him by saying that his magic is still green. That said, she steps right in, using her ice magic and silver snow staff to take the enemies down. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the king has received the report about Chloe, the ice witch getting spotted at the borders. Without any hesitation, he orders all of his men to make sure Chloe doesn't get away this time around. Back at the border, it seems like Adonis is having some argument with Chloe as he asks why she doesn't want him to use any of his magic, even though he can use it. Chloe then states that she has already told him before, his magic is still inexperienced. However, Adonis doesn't seem to understand it at all, as he thinks he already had the proper experience any apprentice must need. But it turns out that there is a far deeper reason behind it. It turns out that Adonis is a human after all, and it seems like Chloe doesn't want to force him to kill his own kind, so no matter how much they get oppressed by them, she will stifle her feelings so that he doesn't have to fight another human. Even when the time comes to brush off their pursuers, she won't let him fight. But he can't stand it anymore, not being able to protect Chloe in times when she needed him the most. It hurts him so much to see Chloe struggling since for him, Chloe is more family than any human out there. While the two are trying to comfort each other during these difficult times, the Empire's soldiers were able to trap them down in a bizarre witchcraft. As they started floating, Chloe slowly realizes that the humans have finally finished the long-distance teleportation technology they have been working on. As the two were transported to the capital within a split second, the king of the Empire started a speech among his people. He started stating that every disease or disaster struck, it depended on which chest. Take them, worship them, and came to fear them. He then started to blubber about humans not being able to live their lives with dignity. Humans are certainly not weaklings, as they are able to compose a new era of a world full of technology no one has ever imagined. That's why in the minds of humans now, without the questionable sorceries of magic and whatnot, they are able to alter the face of nature, to control it with their own efforts. That's why, instead of defending much against witches, the humans have now decided to defend themselves. As a result, this has caused so much hatred towards witches from all over the world. If in ancient times, witches were seen as allies, now they are seen as a threat by mankind. In modern times, witches are eradicated from the face of the world as humans started to become the supreme rulers of the earth. After the king's speech, right on time, Chloe and Adonis pop out on stage. Chloe then tells Adonis to run as fast as he can. However, before he can even leave the stage, the guards already pinned him down. The king is very delighted to have finally met the ice witch, Chloe. Seeing Adonis, the human that was raised by the ice witch, fascinates the king so much. As the royal guards pin Adonis so tightly to the ground, Chloe started to get so impatient. She starts to warn the king and everyone in the audience that if they value their life so much, they must make sure to take their hands off Adonis at once. However, the crowd only answered her with silence. Chloe then states that she didn't want to fight anyone. If she were to destroy them, Adonis would lose a place to call home. That's why, even though she has let them live until now, humans now have become so dangerous. That said, Chloe has now decided to end it once and for all, and start fighting the humans the way she should have before. However, as she tries to throw off her power, it seems like her magic vanishes all of a sudden. It turns out that it is because of the magical photon inhibitor SDAM2 that humans have developed through the years. At this point, it seems like the witch's kind will be expelled by the very humans they were expected to save. Knowing that the worst is coming, Adonis tries to use his magic, but it seems like it is not working at all, since in the first place, he doesn't have one. As the king knows that he will get what he wants, he moves closer to Chloe, stating that she should not worry much, since humans will now inherit the world where witches have surrendered. The king then started to undress and slap Chloe in front of a big crowd. At this stage, Chloe is no ice witch, but an ordinary woman who is helpless. Her body is fully exposed to everyone, and living in a cruel world, people started to take pictures of her naked body. As her whole dignity got stamped down, there's only one human that cries in anger and concern. Adonis started to fight back, trying his best to protect Chloe no matter what. However, as the king orders the guards to shoot down Adonis, Chloe starts to beg, saying that it was her fault, so she should be the one who should be punished. She states that Adonis shouldn't be executed as he is also human like the others in the crowd. So in exchange for Adonis's life, she is willing to give up her life. As the king points his gun at Chloe, Adonis still is trying his best to release any magic in him, but it seems like no matter how much he tries, nothing is released. The memories of him and Chloe then starts a flashback as she smiles at him before the bullet strikes her head first. As she fell to the ground, people started cheering and laughing. However, Adonis, the human boy a witch is raised, couldn't stop his tears from pouring, knowing that the only family he has is now gone. All the happy memories started to fade, and hatred flooded into Adonis's heart. At this point, a dark tale of endless retaliation, spun by a genius of fantasy, will begin. 10 years after the witch hunt, at the Lydia Empire's new nightmare capital, Mayhem Prison Camp District 7, a number of slaves are cramped up in multiple tight prison cells, with only a slice of bread to eat. As the ratio isn't enough for everyone, this obviously caused a stir among the prisoners. However, there is one girl whose name is Doroka, who is willing to give up everything that is hers just to make sure everyone is doing fine. Regardless of how advanced the Empire's technology gets things to the Industrial Revolution, regardless of how many they killed, wars haven't disappeared. At this point, humankind is supposed to be happy, but it seems like it turned out the other way. The girls inside the prison try to comfort each other, however. No matter how much comfort they give each other, the fear that the girls are feeling is beyond imaginable. Doroka tried to calm her friend Anna by showing her some stuffed toys she was able to come across while going inside her cell. Then their smiles abruptly stop as one of the wardens call off a number. When number 218 is called, everyone turns into silence, as they know that anyone who's called out never returns, and no one knows why. To make things worse, the number called was Anna's number. Petrified by the thought that she might actually die after stepping out of the cell, Doroka, being the good friend that she is, decided to take the risk for her friend. She swaps her number with Anna, and she steps out of the cell, and to her supposed death. She's then taken into an office. There, a man is waiting for her, looking almighty and powerful. Right off the bat, the man started ordering her to take off her clothes. At that moment, Doroka already knows that there is something wrong, so she asks why. It turns out that the prisoners in the cells are sold as intimate slaves. They are the ones who were put on with the responsibility to pay off the taxes of the empire. Using intimate slaves as a way of earning more income is such a great thing to expand their resources. As Doroka turns her head to the other side of the room, she sees 3 women, naked and beaten down till their dignity vanishes. The man then assures her that she shouldn't worry as much since she will definitely get used to it soon. However, even if she hasn't done it yet, Doroka knows that it is such a disgusting thing to do, being forced to do something she is not even willing to do. As a result, knowing that no one will help her other than herself, she decides to fight back when the man slaps her out of anger. As the man's phone drops from his hand, Doroka immediately snatches it off. She then runs away, but instead of going directly to the exit, she tried to use the man's phone to open the cells where the other prisoners are kept. Although at first she wasn't successful, eventually when the time came, she was able to imitate the man's voice, and using the voice activation feature of the system, all the cells started opening up. Slaves ran from every direction, and the guards are now in chaos, not knowing where to start chasing first. The guards then turned their attention to Doroka, who is the main reason why this chaos is even happening. Doroka then ends up in a room where a highly dangerous prisoner is kept. The guards unfortunately were able to pin her down, causing her to cry in pain. The guards blamed her for everything that has been happening in the prison. Then all of a sudden, a prison cell opens, revealing Adonis inside all cuffed up. He forcefully removes all the chains around his body and effortlessly eliminates all the guards blocking his way. He snatches one of the guards' guns and pointed it at Doroka. The girl, who is so scared for her life, shivers in fear. Then all of a sudden, Adonis fires the gun up, not toward Doroka, but towards the chain that tucked her down. Meanwhile, the whole prison is now on red alert as the whole district is in chaos. A big number of prisoners are escaping, so they have no choice but to report to the general director. The general then grants one of their best soldiers permission to use level 5 and up weapons. Ikao, the agent of the capital security department, then states she will do her best to protect the empire's peace. Yuki then tells her to do her duty, as no one can look down on the peace that His Majesty has created. That said, big chaos will now happen in the Mayhem prison, more than anyone has anticipated. The man who talked with Doroka earlier then roams around to check if some things are out of place. Then he is able to notice that a pod has been forcefully opened. However, there is only one person who can open such a pod, and this is none other than the disciple of the Ice Witch. Adonis, who is now an SS rank, can already summon magic just like he hoped to before. Now, as a new goal, he summoned a big bullet and directly hit one of the city buildings. This time around, he will not anymore hesitate to kill everyone who has wronged him and the person he considered his family. Meanwhile, back at the prison, one by one, Ikao kills every prisoner she comes across mercilessly. She is now reported to the director that the cleaning is done. However, no matter how much she searched every corner of the establishment, no one fits their description. Doroka then is able to finally get out of prison. As soon as she steps out in the open, she can't believe her eyes as she sees a giant bullet pierced through one of the buildings. Seeing everyone in chaos, she starts blaming herself for not being able to stop the enemies. Adonis, on the other hand, started roaming around the city despite the havoc he has caused. Seeing some advertisements acting as if they are going to protect the family makes him miss Chloe. In the news, a report about the incident currently happening in the city has been broadcast everywhere. The newscaster stated that on the office street of the new Nightmare capital, a building has been struck by a giant projectile that resembles a bullet shell. Although casualties are unknown, this may well be a terrorist attack by a neighboring country. Hearing all of this made Adonis wonder that Chloe might not approve of what he is about to do right now, as Chloe always states that revenge isn't going to do anything good at all. She remembers that moment. Adonis can't seem to believe that it's been years since Chloe has been gone. However, no matter how many years go by, he can never forget the look of her face, the sound of her voice, her words, and her love. As a result, for the sake of justice for Chloe's death, Adonis decided to create havoc in the entire capital. After striking one of his giant bullets, he has now decided to cause an earthquake. The people of the capital started running for their lives. However, it seems like Adonis isn't showing any signs of mercy. No matter how the people scream for help, Adonis stays still and firmly looks to his goal. And then, out of nowhere, he started to summon a conscious implementation of Grande. A giant human-like robot then pops out in the middle of the busy city. On her palms, Adonis gets a clear bird's eye view of the whole premises. This way he will be able to plan his attacks more clearly and precisely. The city police station then started. Do you see floods of emergency calls regarding the giant robot? At first, the officers didn't want to believe what the people were saying. However, as the chaos started to get worse, bystanders and citizens started crashing to the office's walls. The officer then looks up at the sky, and there he is able to see a gigantic robot killing anyone, from kids to oldies. It seems like with all the pain he has gone through, Adonis will kill anyone as long as they are humans. He promises himself that he will not run away this time. He then orders his robot to aim for the capital. Meanwhile, the capital guards are now disorganized, or what has been happening outside the castle walls. The guards then started to inform everyone that the target is a robot with the appearance of a giant statue. Although the origin remains unknown, evacuations are being conducted for the entire office state. They will now create a retreat out of District 5. Although they have already informed the Majesty about the incident, it seems like the king is not in a good condition to even stand up. As a result, the officer in charge then does every one of his men to focus on their fourth line of defense. They have also called for aerial reinforcement from the Air Force. The soldiers were quite aware of the fact that this was all done by Adonis. Although some of them are quite scared of that thought, the soldiers have no choice but to do their best in tough times like this one. Meanwhile, as theory and execution turns into place, the 10 years that Adonis was behind bars really brought him some wonder. The limited stimulations, constantly visualizing and contemplating the ideas inside his head, provided him the perfect environment for achieving in-depth wisdom so that he can finally execute his slaughter. Those who are not naturally born witches have a unique way of controlling the flow of magic. The technique is called conscious implementation, and it seems like Adonis is able to manage to withstand and formulate the magic mechanism, to then be augmented by his will using a special quill. That said, due to his anger towards humanity for taking away his only family, he can stop trying to kill anyone with one blow. He kills people by firing at them, laughing and crying at the same time. It seems like no matter how many people die, he wants more. While he is contemplating and having a literal midlife crisis, the officials have finally got a clear look at him. As he's attacking one hit after another, it seems like he can't dodge it anymore due to how fast it is. Below the ground, people are still in chaos, and it seems like Doroka already decided to hop on to save as many people as she can. She had never expected that things would lead to this, so she decided to make sure in stopping Adonis herself. At this point, the soldiers are slowly getting frustrated as the damages and casualties are rapidly increasing. That said, they have no choice but to deploy their best soldiers on foot to kill Adonis once and for all. As they land on the ground, they will now have a clear visual of the surroundings. However, it seems like there is no sign of the enemy. The soldiers try to keep their composure as they need to always stay alert in their search. Back at the headquarters, the officers warn the soldiers that despite Adonis' young appearance, they must stay on their guard since he possesses a kind of incredibly powerful magic. So capturing him is not required, and they have permission to kill on sight. As the soldiers saw the gigantic robot statue, they were in awe as they can't seem to process the fact that this is all magic, that Adonis can make an entire statue move without even fuel. However, their awe is now changed to horror as they turn their heads and witness a flood of blood covering their main street. The once thriving alley where people enjoy most of their days now looks like the canvas of hell. The air forces are then informed that there is an emergency, as a fire has been spotted following the giant statue's pathway, so it may lead to more casualties. The soldiers then notice some kind of script floating in the air. Little did they know, this is all Adonis' spell. After just a split second, they vanished into thin air as their guts started to rip apart. As they lost sight of their surroundings, they were unable to maintain their altitude. Adonis then aggressively takes them down, killing everyone on board. However, it seems like Adonis is starting to feel a little uncomfortable about this thirst for bloodshed. As the headquarters get a clear view of where Adonis is, they all prepare for a supposed war that is about to happen any second now. Meanwhile, at the royal quarters of the palace, the king started to notice that it's getting noisy outside. It seems like the king has got a deadly illness that causes him to sleep in his bed most of the time. His queen then stated that it's only been half an hour since he fell asleep. She assured him that there is no need to worry about anything else, so he should just take this well-deserved rest. Then stated that the country is still in great condition because of the works of the king having already built a powerful empire for them. It seems like these words really delight the highness, so he also thanks his queen for the assistance she has been giving him. As the king coughs some blood, he ends up concluding that his life has reached this deadly state already. It turns out that the king has acquired some incurable disease, but despite acquiring this curse of a disease, the king holds no regret. Since they have come this far in order to build an empire based on advanced science, they burned all the witches for the sake of humanity. Because for the king, as long as the witches still exist, humanity will never make any advancement. Humans must search for a new path with their own strength. In their new era, magic has proven to be unnecessary and can be the cause of much trouble. That's why, in order to achieve the development humanity deserves, the king did what had to be done. As the rain pours hard, the king also loses his life. This time around, the job is transferred to none other than a significant other, Queen Andromeda. On the other hand, back at the battlefield, it seems like the headquarters have now lost contact with all of their soldiers deployed. But then, something unexpected happened. One of their radars has caught something odd. It seems like a civilian is approaching Adonis on its own. However, the headquarters thought that it might be Adonis' accomplice. Meanwhile, while the unknown civilian approaches Adonis from behind, Adonis is quite busy dealing with some soldiers left for him to fight. The soldier looks so cocky, saying that Adonis couldn't possibly kill him, since he is a specialized soldier that has been through body modifications. To make it worse, the soldier then tries to provoke Adonis, saying that 10 years ago, they should have just killed him along with the witches. But before Adonis can even finish the man's life, the unknown civilian shows herself, trying to stop Adonis. It turns out that the civilian is Doroka. Adonis also recognizes her to be that girl in the prisoner's camp. Doroka asks him to stop the massacre since he has already taken countless lives in this country, so that should be enough already. Doroka then states that she doesn't want to witness the loss of innocent life anymore. However, instead of listening, Adonis ended up still killing the man regardless of Doroka's pleading. He then laughs, saying that no matter if these people belong to Lydia or not, the entirety of humanity is his enemy. That's why he will make them all perish, as they are nothing but prisoners of this cursed empire. Doroka then states that Chloe wouldn't want all of this to happen. Hearing Doroka say Chloe's name shocked Adonis. Doroka tried using Chloe's name to stop Adonis from continuing this madness. However, it seems like this angered Adonis even more, as he didn't want Doroka to mention Chloe's name as if she knows her well. Adonis then went on to say that she is just a lonely prisoner, so why does she keep messing with his business? He then speculated that maybe she's a spy, a decoy for the next military assault. Adonis made it clear to her that this isn't a child's game for her to show her idiotic justice. For him, it's just like last time. If they were to fight a fair battle, there is no way Chloe would lose to those filthy humans. He then added that she doesn't have any idea what this is all about, and yet she still poked her nose in somebody else's business. And then a plot twist happens. It turns out that Doroka is actually a witch herself, so she technically knows everything about Chloe and Adonis. She even stated that the name Adonis was created with the most wonderful in the world, and she saved it for her beloved apprentice. And every single one of the witches knows Adonis and Chloe's story by heart. However, instead of being happy to finally meet another witch, Adonis started strangling her, saying that this must all be a joke, since for him, only humans are making fun of the witches now. Doroka then stated that they managed to survive the last witch hunt, but it seems like Adonis is not taking it seriously at all, since if they really survived, where were they 10 years ago when Chloe needed them the most? Why didn't they try to save the life of their kind? She then stated that everybody spent all their power escaping the slaughter, so they were technically powerless at that time. However, it seems like Doroka can make Chloe come back, as she can revive her. Although it shocked Adonis, he thinks that there is no way a witch like Doroka can really do such a thing. Doroka then explained that for her to be able to revive Chloe, she must first need to acquire more memory of Adonis and Chloe, as he is the main factor in achieving Chloe's revival. But it seems like Adonis doesn't show any signs of cooperation. He doesn't even listen to what Doroka has to say. I'm sorry you saw. He will now decide to eliminate all the nuances and eliminate all opposition and those who dare to mock Chloe and speak about her. Doroka then states that if that's what puts his mind at ease, with a smile on her face, she states that it has been a pleasure of her to meet him. However, seeing her reaction made Adonis weak, as he remembers this is the same expression Chloe showed him on the day of her execution. He then sobs in tears, asking if she can really bring Chloe back. Doroka then stands up, reaching for Adonis's hands, asking him to follow her as she will show and tell her everything from now on. He is not alone anymore, but before he can even reach out for her hand, a loud gunshot is heard, and in a split second, Doroka falls to the ground wounded. It turns out it was all Ikaut's doing. 10 years ago in the Mestemia region, the Lydia Empire, a village of witches was burnt down by the human soldiers. They were mercilessly killed one by one, without even any reason. Doroka was only a child during that time. She has witnessed the horrors of death right before her eyes. One of the closest witches to her is Mia, who was so relieved to see Doroka okay after the chaos. During that time, the witches had no idea why the humans suddenly attacked them, since for centuries, there was a strong bond between the two races. Everyone in the village at that time headed towards the capital to cure Tom's disease, and now this is what they get as repayment. Although they wanted to fight back, it seems like the humans have made magic blocking devices that stops the witches from using their magic. If only Ophelia was here, Mia stated. She might know what to do about this whole situation. So Mia asks Doroka if she can make a run for Ophelia City, since Ophelia will let her know about what has been happening. Doroka must run and never look back. Doroka didn't want to leave Mia alone while she escapes. However, it seems like Mia will not be able to come with Doroka, as she herself is injured badly. Before turning away from Doroka, she throws a stuffed toy, which is actually the Star of Revelation. This star will guide Doroka to the right path until she reaches Ophelia. Since Doroka has already been through ordination, Mia is sure that she will understand the task in no time. Before they leave each other for good, Mia paints the most genuinely happy smile on her face while asking Doroka to be strong and use everything she has to run. For sure, she will make it past the mountains in no time. Although it must have been so painful for Doroka, she wipes her tears and runs as fast as she can. Fast forward, Doroka is able to find her way to the capital, but 10 years after the incident in their village, Doroka finds herself dying, still in the hands of the humans. Adonis tried to ask her how he could revive Chloe, but before Doroka can even tell him everything, Ikaut shoots her again, causing her to die for good. Adonis is so furious at the fact that he already had a slight glimpse of hope that maybe he can actually revive Chloe. But now with Doroka dying, he has no idea what to do next. However, he will not give up that easily. As the soldiers come closer to him, he readies his magic pen as he is about to write a spell. With just one sweep of his hand, he is able to defeat them all in one go. Then there is Ikaut who fires at Adonis, trying to kill him in one go. But Adonis is able to turn the situation in his favor, As the bullet almost strikes him, he traverses its direction back to Ikao. As he finally takes care of the incompetent pests as he calls them, he will not wipe the entire human race off the planet, so that they all experience what Chloe went through. On the other hand, the headquarters are now in panic, as the situation has become worse than they all anticipated. That's why they have no other choice but to turn it into their last resort, and that is to use the anti-magic device. This device is proof of the human technological advancement that prevailed against those witches years ago. If the officials find a way to activate this device, then they will be able to seal away Adonis's magic. That said, Yuki then orders some men to move immediately. This way they can finally defeat Adonis once and for all. The scientists who made the devices are quite astonished by the fact that the security department has always been so hot-tempered. That is why they knew for a fact that they would come to the said establishment. For a split second, Yuki has no idea who the people in front of them are. But after a few seconds of contemplation, she then finally realized that they are the science department. The science chief, Theta Samantha, then states they haven't met for a while, but she surely can firmly say that Yuki has become quite a strong soldier. Theta already knows what the security department wants, so without any more seconds wasted, she immediately stated that there is no way anyone can activate the said device. Yuki then asks furiously what Theta means. Yuki then calls their general so that he and Theta can talk about what's the next plan. The general then states that they have no time to play around, judging from their situation. They don't have much time left. Theta then asks Chief Yamato not to be so harsh, as she has something to discuss with him. Theta then states that there is no way they can activate the said device since they still didn't find the right way to do it. Even if they manage to figure out a way to do so, there are still matters that exist beyond their knowledge. Radiating from the anti-magic protein device is something called nuclear protons. These protons create a syndrome that can cause a severe deficiency in human cells. Half of the soldiers who participated in the witch hunt are recorded to bear that strange sickness. Due to some unexpected factors, they have yet to reach a conclusion. However, people in the science department all agreed that this nuclear proton can be impactful to the human body. That is because this device can eliminate one's cells for good. Theta knows for a fact that there is something obviously wrong. Without the witch's magic to cleanse and restore natural resources for the world, the environment that used to clear off these harmful factors is now gone. Mother Nature has already lost her ability to cleanse the air. If the world gets drowned in an enormous amount of these things, radiation exposure will occur. When that happens, humans will soon become history. In the past, during their war for humanity, the king has been exposed to the device more than anyone. Now that explains why he is so sick. Yuki didn't want to believe such a thing. For her, the main threat was magic and nothing else. So Yuki tries to activate the device, and she ends up getting hurt in the end. Meanwhile, Adonis has now got closer to the soldiers than he was earlier. As a result, they must all give extra effort to fight back if they want to live. Theta then states that if they were able to seal his magic, then they might have a slight chance of defeating him. That said, as Adonis' script started disappearing, he slowly realized that something might be wrong. The soldiers then see this as an opening. They all went on to attack Adonis until it eventually reaches a point when a soldier is able to chop off Adonis' head. At that moment, Adonis is so happy. Finally, he can be with Chloe once again. After finally killing Adonis, the soldier who was able to kill him turns out to be a girl. She carried Adonis' head as she walked with pride back to the others. On that day, the witch's disciple is finally dead, and the soldiers are so happy. They all cheer with much excitement and happiness, as they never expected they will be able to defeat such a powerful man. Everyone is so grateful for that one soldier who was able to kill Adonis in one blow. Everyone started getting curious to know more about her. Everyone is able to breathe in so deeply as the battle between a country and one man is now over. Chief Yamato then tells everyone that they have done a great job. Although there have been some casualties, which is something that is unavoidable, it is still good to say that the death toll didn't increase more than that. Chief Yamato commends everyone for the great work they did to eliminate the witch's disciple together. But of course, this is still not the right time to celebrate yet. They still need to retrieve Adonis' body quickly, while examining the damage in the capital regions. Besides, all forces must cooperate with their backup to help the injured citizens. Other than that, Yamato is also able to notice that particular soldier that was able to kill Adonis. Knowing that she is able to achieve such a big accomplishment, Yamato asks his men which team the girl does belong to. According to their record, she is a new recruit of the Armored Task Force. That said, Yamato then orders his men to head over to Chief Theta and Deputy Chief Yuki to confirm their situation. After a long day, Chief Yamato has only one thing to say, and that is that Lydia as a country is definitely powerful. With Adonis' sudden death, the age of magic is now over. The world left behind a terrifying curse, a child protected by the witches 10 years ago. Upon his awakening, he brought to this world a devastating tragedy, a disaster. Adonis is a criminal who has been assigned to lifetime imprisonment, but he ended up getting killed in the end. For many, he is a demon who ironically belongs to the human race, an infidel who got blinded by magic. For him, humans are nothing but remnants of an evil era. But what really made people wonder is how can a human like him control magic flow inside his body? It's been 10 years, but that is still a mystery that hasn't been uncovered yet. However, even to this day, the fact that he died so quickly still angers someone every time he recalls that event. Now that the whole country is in fear, the king tries his best to stand up and tell the people of the empire that there is nothing to be worried about, since humans will forever rule the world. Within their hands is the incredible power of science and military troops with nerves of steel. That's why they shall not yield to any evil force. They burn with the fire of their pride, and such fire shall burn within each and every one of their citizens' hearts. To them, humans, being born in the land of Lydia, is their everlasting pride. With that said, it has now come to a time for the old world to meet its end. The gods no longer exist, since from now on, this country is God. While the king's speech is broadcast among different social media forms, everyone, including students, was able to listen to it. In one of the schools in the capital, one teacher tells his students that they should know how to sacrifice themselves for others, despite any hardships. Since tomorrow will be the national trial exam, all of the student seats will be repositioned. But before the class ends, one of the students asks their teacher why Adonis sides with the witches, despite the fact that he is a human. The teacher then states that maybe Adonis was brainwashed or something. As the class finally ends, a student named Eli is seen looking so spaced out. Eli runs off to the plaza where the memorial was held. There he says her apologies to her boyfriend, who she left in order to save herself from the disaster that Adonis made. However, what is shocking is the fact that she is quite fascinated by Adonis. Little did she know, an official named Oz is able to learn her dirty little secret. As Eli runs away, Oz keeps telling herself that killing Eli would be the right thing, as taking an interest in a terrorist is never a good thing. Meanwhile, Charmy, the head supervisor of the National Intelligence Agency, then calls Oz, informing her that she discovered some astounding analysis from Adonis' remains. It turns out that the corpse of the witch's disciple is actually a fake. Somewhere in the world, it seems like Adonis might still be alive, as 3 women try to hold him down as he starts to get hysterical about things. However, no matter how much they try to pin him down, Adonis couldn't stop convulsing. Aside from that, his body temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure are also rising. If this keeps up, his heart won't be able to take it. It seems like the women already know that, as they have feared, it seems like it is still impossible for a human body to withstand multi-dimensional teleportation. However, Ophelia-sama doesn't want Adonis to give up. With a little stimulation directly to the brain, his consciousness should come back. He is shocked to see himself getting killed by the girl soldier earlier, but it turns out that the girl can also do magic. After chopping off Adonis' fake body, the girl soldier then uses augmentation magic. Adonis is quite shocked at what he is able to witness, so he asks the girl what the hell has happened to him. The girl then introduced herself as Anna, a fellow witch who snuck into the country alongside Doroka. Anna then explained to Adonis that their plan is to resurrect the great witch Chloe. That's why, from this moment on, they will let him run free. Adonis then is about to ask her some questions, but Anna quickly turns him off, saying he should leave the questions for later. With that said, Ophelia then extracts Adonis from the ground. A series of magic spells then come rushing towards Adonis. Out of nowhere, bandages appear, covering him from head to toe. And when finally, a ball was created, he is then transported to the witch's lair. At that moment, Adonis finally wakes up from his convulsion. He fell off the hospital bed, as his muscles are now so weak due to the teleportation. The witches tried to help him out as he tried to catch his breath. Then Ophelia kneels down, hugging Adonis tightly while stating her gratitude for the fact that Adonis has never stopped standing up for them witches. Adonis then asks Ophelia who she is and where the heck is he right now. After a few moments of processing, he's able to realize that he is in the witch's kingdom. The kingdom is full of color and life, but it seems like everyone is not happy with anything that has been happening. Since Adonis couldn't move on his own, temporarily he is being treated like a patient, so he tries to tell everyone to let him go since he thinks he can walk on his own. Everyone then takes him on a tour around the kingdom. While on the said tour, it was explained that the kingdom is a separate place, completely isolated from human influence. This is why the path he took in order to get there is harder than anyone could imagine. At this point, Adonis finally realizes why his body is so weak after the teleportation. After all, he is still a human. Not knowing much about what really happened, Adonis asks Ophelia what she has done to him. Ophelia then stated that all she did was invite him. Adonis then asks if she knows Chloe. Ophelia then stated that of course she does. Aside from that, she is also quite aware of the fact that Chloe is Adonis' master. There is no witch in existence that has not heard of Chloe Morgan. She is a witch whose power surpasses all. She is above all kind and smart. Despite her ice manipulation magic, her warm-hearted nature is the ideal that everyone aspires to embody. However, she left the witch's kingdom because of humankind. She wanted to teach magic to humans, but she ended up getting killed by the very humans she wants to take care of. Adonis is able to figure it out because he had always been traveling with her. For witches, magic is an invaluable gift to a witch. It is equivalent to their soul. However, such things cannot be passed down to humans. Despite that, Chloe the witch accepted a human as her apprentice, although none of them actually understood what her intention was. But at that moment, not only Ophelia, every single witch in the kingdom begged her to give up on the disciple and return home. However, Chloe only responded with one word, which is sorry. With a smile on her face, she chose to stay with young Adonis. While Ophelia is telling this backstory, it seems like Adonis has become short-tempered, and he eventually couldn't take it when people tend to tell such long stories. With that said, Ophelia then decided to return something of Adonis. Ophelia shows off his quill, and immediately Adonis's body responds with the urge to catch it before it falls. He furiously asks Ophelia to give it back. Entrusted with the eye of the Inferno Dragon to form the waves and a powerful phoenix feather attached to the rear, the quill that Chloe gave to Adonis is truly a masterpiece. Ophelia is quite aware that this is what Chloe specifically made for Adonis to use. The moment that Ophelia handed the quill back to Adonis, he immediately held it so tightly with both of his hands. For the first time in a while, Adonis becomes calm as he asks Ophelia if they will really resurrect Chloe. "A witch never lies," Ophelia stated. Those words were like comfort to Adonis, as if a bunch of heavy metals got lifted off his shoulders. After he breathed deeply, finally letting out a heavy sigh, the moment he opened his eyes, he was shocked to see that they are literally out in outer space. So this is what Ophelia truly meant when she started isolated from human influence. The witches are currently staying and living quietly in a quiet star. They came here 10 years ago to once again build themselves a peaceful land. This is now considered to be the new country of witches, called Minamilia. Ophelia even took the time to take Adonis out, to show him what it looks like to live in an empty star. As Adonis takes a look at planet Earth, he can't seem to believe that this is all possible. Human science is what amplifies the true nature of humans. Their God holds concern for the fate that lies ahead of them. The reason he created such a spherical planet might be to limit their vision from what is actually out there. However, it seems like Adonis doesn't believe that there is such a thing called God. According to him, such a being doesn't exist. Ophelia then shows him the tombstones that belong to the fallen witches. They belong to those who were imprisoned during the speech. There's a saying that the darkest hour of the day is always before dawn, but the truth is the sky gradually lights up with the appearance of the sun. It is an obvious truth, like the difference between good and evil. Humans have always stated that witches are the cause of human corruption. However, such statements are the common beliefs among them. So even though what one's opinions are, when the majority is caught up in a loop of misbelief, even though no matter how hard the witches try to prove that they are not a threat, people will always find a way to make them vanish from history. After going out into space for a few minutes, Ophelia and Adonis then decided to head back inside. Ophelia then shows him Mito, the great tree of life. This tree is where every witch was born. Since Adonis is a witch's disciple, Ophelia thought that he must have seen the tree before. However, it seems like this is the first time that Adonis has seen it with his own eyes, since Chloe didn't want to talk about the place she was born. Since witches only have one gender as opposed to humans who have two, that's why Mito, the tree of life, is their source of energy and existence. It is stated that its fruits bear the power of God himself. Just thinking about it, it is actually quite mystical. But it seems like Adonis is not as impressed. Mito is the last tree brought from Earth. Apart from this Mito, and every other tree has been burned down by the humans. As of right now, the birth and rebirth of a witch depends entirely on this tree. Hearing the word rebirth, Adonis's attention immediately went on to one of the growing fruit hanging from the tree. He then asks Ophelia if that really is Chloe. Ophelia then stated, "Not yet, since this is not the right time for a witch to be born. In order to revive Chloe, they need Adonis's power." Ophelia further explained that magic is what materializes their thoughts in the physical world. Adonis's ability, the summoning magic writing style, depending on his compatibility, he can materialize every single existence in the world. It can be an illusion, or it can be a reality all controlled by their will. The thought of everything, even memory for instance, is so powerful. The true nature of memory is fate itself. It would be best if Adonis is able to pour his memory of Chloe into that fruit. Otherwise, all of her speech will become meaningless. In conclusion, the key to reviving Chloe is Adonis himself. Whenever he is done preparing, he can come and tell Ophelia what happened. Then they will proceed with the ritual. That said, as for the rest of the day, Adonis just stayed below the tree looking at the growing fruit, where Chloe is supposedly in. For some reason, Adonis couldn't believe that Chloe can actually be revived. Then Anna entered the scene. Adonis immediately remembered her because of the augmentation magic she did earlier. Anna then started tearing up while telling Adonis that because of him, Doroka ended up dying. However, instead of showing any sign of concern or condolences, Adonis just stands up saying that it is not his fault if Doroka died, since after all, he was their target from the start, and anything that happened between their plans is not anymore his problem. However, instead of showing any sign of concern or condolences, Adonis just stands up saying that it is not his fault if Doroka died, since after all, he was their target from the start, and anything that happened between their plans is not anymore his problem. As Adonis walks away, Anna keeps on tearing up, while stating that as usual, humans are really that selfish. Anna then starts questioning why they are even risking their lives for the likes of him. Adonis then butted out saying that they are only doing this since they will also gain so much from Chloe. In the first place, what the witches really wanted is his quill. It turns out that Doroka actually told him the truth that the witches only want to take advantage of Chloe's power. That's why Doroka tells him that after the witches successfully revive Chloe, they both must escape the witches' kingdom immediately. Hearing this from Doroka really shocked Adonis. No wonder why Adonis looks so pissed off with everyone from the start. Right here in the kingdom of witches, even in this extreme dimensional environment, witches can still live comfortably like humans without any special gear or protection. So Adonis wonders why they still need to build such a complex architectural construction like this one. From what Adonis is seeing, this place is a cage. It is specifically used for human livestock. That multi-dimensional portal was probably used to abduct human slaves. The initial intentions of the witches were just to ensure their final victory, who at that time were already on the brink of extinction. He was created as a mere puppet who can fight for their sake. Plus, there's the quill that the witches internally emphasized. It's because Chloe is the only person capable of making such an artifact. Remembering what Ophelia stated earlier about magic being the equivalent to the soul of the witches, it's just a mere joke spoken by a bunch of fake scholars. Hearing all this made Anna shocked, as she never expected Adonis to find out about it so quickly. So she suggested that they both should work together, since she herself wouldn't allow Doroka's sacrifice to be wasted. Adonis then stated that at this moment, reviving Chloe is his only objective. That would never change no matter what, since he has a feeling that he has come closer to her wishes. But just in case Chloe refuses to accept the witches, then all witches shall also become Adonis's enemies. The next day, the ritual finally begins. Everyone is gathered all together, waiting for the revival of the greatest witch. Adonis's presence in the ritual was due to the witch's will. But from this point on, everything is now up to him to do, for the sole purpose of reviving Chloe. Everyone prayed on their own, as Adonis scribbled in the air with his quill. After all their memories together were recollected, a series of flashbacks started to appear. There was one that really stuck when Adonis and Chloe were chilling on the roof, stargazing. Chloe tells him about the Farul constellation of witches. Other than that, she also introduced other stars that are connected with each other. Adonis then states that the beauty of the Great Farul has a lot of things in common with Chloe, but he doesn't see any resemblance at all. Although Chloe is a little irritated by that statement, she still continued to be good to Adonis. Adonis then decided to show off his knowledge of stars, saying that next to the Farul star is the Sea Dragon constellation of the second dragon. Then the last one is the Phoenix, and those at the back also belong to the Wise Giants tribe. Chloe is so amazed at the fact that Adonis really did a great job remembering all of that information. Adonis continued speaking until it came to a point when he needed to point out the constellation that was named after him. He became a little shy after that. Remembering all of these moments he spent with Chloe really makes him so emotional. There is absolutely nothing in this world that can replace those great memories. Now that he is actually thinking about it, those memories were just like a dream, but now that there might really be a chance for him to actually see and be with Chloe once more, makes him so happy and excited at the same time. However, he remembers the time when Chloe started crying in the bathroom, thinking that she can't live life without Adonis. Chloe since the beginning has always felt alone, both in the human world and in the witch. That's why, remembering how she struggled to cope with surviving day and night, Adonis decided not to continue resurrecting Chloe in the end. Instead, he decided to do something that no one has ever anticipated, and that is to resurrect Doroka, the woman who really has pure intentions. After all, Adonis really hates unpaid debts, and reviving Doroka felt so right for him. As soon as Doroka opens her eyes, she is in deep shock as she finds herself back in the Witch Kingdom. Not just Doroka, but everyone in the crowd is shocked at Adonis' decision. Doroka is speechless to see Ophelia and everyone else gathered all around. She starts to question what she is doing in the said place. At that time, she vividly remembers that she was already shot multiple times. Finally realizing that Adonis is holding her while she is all naked, Doroka immediately hops out of his grip and starts to cover her body. She then started to apologize to Adonis, saying that she is so sorry to show him such an unpleasant and filthy sight. She even begs him to erase this from his mind completely. But instead of insulting her or whatever, Adonis even helped her cover her body with some spare clothes prepared on the side. He then tells her to stop messing around and hurry up to get some clothes on. He then mutters that in Rydia, he was saved by her. So this time, he is just returning the favor. Hearing this made Doroka wonder, what about Chloe? What is he going to do about it? Even Ophelia asks him what the plan is. The plan to revive Chloe, the greatest witch? With an evil smile, Ophelia states that it must be terrible for Adonis. As she clenched her fists together, she started to stuff Adonis with some guilt, saying that even after receiving help from the witches, from breaking him out of prison to healing his wound, even providing him with a safe place to stay, and even going too far to try and resurrect Chloe, it still ended up as a failed plan. The witches then started to make Adonis feel guilty, saying that it seems like he doesn't have any love for his teacher, and that's why he decided to throw away Chloe for some mere witch like Doroka. Ophelia then asks Doroka directly what really happened between her and Adonis, and why did he choose her over Chloe. Of course, there's no way that Doroka can tell everyone that she actually told Adonis about their real intentions. Now that she is caught up in this tight situation, Adonis has had enough of this absurd behavior from the other witches. That's why he decided to step in, saying to every witch that attended that the decision is to not revive Chloe was him all along. However, it seems like Ophelia couldn't believe that Adonis would actually choose Doroka over Chloe. It seems so meaningless no matter what angle they look at it. So in the end, Ophelia concluded that Doroka might be humanity's ally after all. The angry look on the other witch's faces is indescribable, but then something happened that no one had anticipated. A portal opens with human soldiers popping out. Ophelia couldn't believe her eyes, as she never expected such a thing to happen. Adonis then revealed that inside his body, a micro GPS transmitter is engraved. For someone who has been watched for years, he is technically one of the most wanted humans in human history. That said, he alone is enough to hunt the humans. That's why if they want to live, they must all stand back. Water and fire started rushing from every direction, and Miro, the tree of life for witches, started to get caught on fire. As flames and smoke started to engulf the whole dome, Ophelia couldn't move or think properly. Then a human soldier enters the scene, stating that finally, they have found the place where the rest of the witches have been hiding. Now that the incineration has been completed, the humans are now ready to begin their battle with the witches once more. He is even quite excited to see Adonis, since in his mind, he can finally take down the disciple of the evil race. However, Adonis is quite certain that he will not get defeated by just mere humans. After all, he was the one who invited everyone anyway. With that said, on the other part of the dome, everyone is in chaos, trying to save Miro as much as they can. However, humans have now become so fast in attacking that the witches aren't able to react so quickly. So instead of focusing on extinguishing the fire, they ended up worrying that maybe in a few seconds, they were already dead. That said, everyone started to get alert. Witches and humans started to fight with all their might, just like they did 10 years ago. The witches now used their augmentation magic to transform into their battle gears. After preparing all that they needed, they are then ordered to finally engage with the enemy. With that said, after years of no wars between witches and humans, blood, sweat, and tears are about to scatter all over the place once again. Although it is not yet clear why Adonis did this. In a matter of time, we might know what really made him not take sides. As the fight starts, the humans are now in their positions, while Adonis is preparing his quill as he summons his magic. The human soldier is quite fast with his moves. He slices Adonis' skin as if it is butter. However, it seems like Adonis has also come prepared. He summons a pistol which he uses to attack the human soldier. The soldier is quite shocked by how powerful the firepower of Adonis' gun is. The soldier couldn't believe it and is in denial that Adonis' weapon is far more powerful than his. Without any choice, he deploys his protective equipment, if he didn't want to acquire that many injuries. However, every time Adonis fires up his gun, the soldier's suit acquires so much damage. No matter how much the soldier tries to stand up, he couldn't since Adonis is just far more powerful than he is. Adonis even went on to tease him, saying that he is all cocky earlier, when in fact he is just a weakling who is no match for him. Before Adonis can even kill the soldier, Doroka stops him. So Adonis asks why. On the other hand, the other witches are now forming a plan, with some moving out and some fighting directly in front. Some witches use crystal gems to hold enemies on the ground, while some summon snakes and insects to directly kill the enemies within just split seconds. But above all, it seems like the witches really have the edge considering Ophelia has gravity magic, meaning she can easily slow down the enemy anytime she wants. Realizing that Ophelia is such a pain to them, the soldiers decided to focus on her first. However, no matter how much they try, it seems like Ophelia is just so powerful. She gathered all the enemies in the air, crumpled them up in one space, and just like that, she crushed their bones and muscles like mincemeat. At this time, it is already a death game for humans. After all, they are in the witch's territory, meaning they are as fragile as they can be. For Ophelia, humans are like babies and can easily be taken away. As the blood splashes everywhere, Ophelia smiles as if she is just taking a bath in the rain. Ophelia is quite confident that they will win this fight. However, as she turns her head, she is in great shock to see everyone lifeless. It turns out that even though it seems like they might win because of their power, the human troop number is their greatest enemy. Although Ophelia and the other witches were able to take care of the first batch of humans who attacked them, the arrival of the second battalion really is the end for them all. Inside Ophelia's mind, it seems that there is no end to the number of enemies coming at them. Little did the witches know that they are actually being watched by the humans back on Earth. Sita Samantz, the current head of the science department, wonders why the witches are still alive, even though they were supposed to be destroyed. Out in space, a spacecraft is seen, covered by a bunch of what seems like a body. The operator of spacecraft-89 reports that regarding the space transfer prototype, at the time of the apparent destruction of the witches, it was dumped into space. Basically, it seems to have been taken away by the witches. After hearing this news, one man started to get furious at the fact that because of their science, the witches were able to get away. Sita then apologizes for the late discovery, and regarding what they built on the moon's surface, due to the camouflaging ability the witches possess, the celestial radar was not able to line up properly. Now at this point, it seems like the head of the operation is really pissed off, considering that every year, the Bureau devotes much of its budget to supply the science department with the funds they need. So the head is asking how the department will handle the problem now. The government already told everyone 10 years ago that the witches were wiped out entirely, so there's no way possible that they can say they mess up, because that is something that the science department alone can take responsibility for. Then one man from the meeting states that they can deal with that later. What they should do now is stop acting like children, since at the end of the day, a witch hunt is already old-fashioned, said the White Rabbit, the head of the Lydia Empire's intelligence department. Back on Earth, the security department is in deep worry as Yuki is still in critical condition after the deadly incident a few days ago. She's now being kept inside a tank, as her condition is monitored. Yamato, among all, is really worried about what might happen to Yuki, as she has always been at his side in every battle. At this moment, he doesn't know what to do, in case Yuki wouldn't be able to endure the pain. Meanwhile, Theta is also remembering the time she joined the security department. Yuki immediately joined right after her. When Sita became the principal, Yuki became her loyal assistant. Although Yuki is one of the youngest, she is definitely one of the most trustworthy and strong soldiers the kingdom can have. Yuki is an amazing sister, friend, and comrade. No one can say bad things about her since she has shown everyone kindness and perseverance throughout the time she is working. That's why seeing her inside a tank, looking so lifeless, makes Yamato so angry but at the same time worried for the worst thing that could happen. Yamato then asked Theta if everything would definitely be alright. At that time, she said that everything would be okay, but it ended up not. As Yamato's tears started to flow, he can't seem to accept the fact that Yuki has been through such a thing, considering she is still only 14 years old. Since he can't blame anyone for what has happened, he ended up throwing all the hatred towards the witch's disciple, Adonis. Fast forward, Yamato decided to join the raid on the witch's kingdom. Now he is up against Adonis, which he clearly tries to fight with all his might. Although the pain that is rushing through his body right now is indescribable, he endures them all for the sake of revenge for his beloved comrade Yuki. Yamato tries to set his configuration in accordance with Adonis' firepower. However, no matter how hard he tries, it seems like he can't get a hold of it, considering Adonis is so fast. Despite this, Yamato doesn't show any sign of giving up, as he always finds himself standing up again, trying to fight Adonis no matter what. It already came to a point when Adonis started to get irritated at how stubborn Yamato is. Adonis is about to kill him with one blow, but it seems like Yamato's will is so unmatched that he ends up being able to hit Adonis right in the face. Even Adonis is shocked by Yamato's sudden attack. Yamato is confident that the one who's going to die is not him, but Adonis. For a split second, Doroka got worried for Adonis. However, it seems like Adonis thinks Doroka should worry more about Yamato. Yamato, on the other hand, then pours out his emotions, telling Adonis that while being a human, he has provided assistance to the witches. That makes him no less than a demon himself. That's why Yamato hopes that after this battle is over, the world will finally be able to live in peace once more. For a moment, Adonis froze from everything that had been happening, while the other witches are now in panic, especially Ophelia, who didn't anticipate that they might actually get defeated in their own kingdom. While this is happening, Anna then rushes towards Doroka, who now has no idea what to do next. As blood continues to shed, Anna went on to say to Doroka that she is delighted to see her once again, and she is looking forward to being with her once more. However, before they can even escape, Anna ends up getting killed right in front of Doroka. Doroka's world stopped for a second, and the only thing she could see was darkness. As the chaos in the Witch Kingdom continues, the headquarters also continues to broadcast the video for everyone to see. At this moment, almost everyone in the said kingdom has died at the hands of the humans. Doroka, who looks like the lone survivor of all, started to cry loudly seeing her dear friend's dead body lying in front of her. She cries and cries, but the pain continues to linger. Meanwhile, Adonis has now come back to his senses. Both he and Yamato are again seen having an intense fight with each other. Adonis uses a shielded system to block Yamato's hits. On the other hand, the headquarters then informs Yamato that the witches have now been successfully neutralized. All that's left to do for him is to kill Adonis. This way, the war between humans and witches will finally have its conclusion. At this point, it is a fight between a human raised by humans and a human raised by a witch. Both of them have principles they want to stick to. Both of them have goals they want to achieve. Both of them are fighting for the sake of revenge. As their weapons hit one another, their sounds echo through the whole dome, which is now dead silent. As clashing waves started to round in every direction, Adonis also decided to cast a spell that would definitely be able to fight Yamato back. Adonis aims to hit Yamato in the center. As he tried to project the correct angle, he eventually was able to hit Yamato at his desired target spot. A loud sound is then heard, as Yamato's shield suit starts to break apart. To make it worse, Adonis even used a glove covered in claws. This way, Yamato will be able to feel 2 types of pain in one blow. However, instead of giving up, Yamato keeps on fighting back. Being one of the strongest soldiers in the whole world, Yamato definitely is living up to his name. But it seems like no matter how much Yamato's will made him keep going, his own body ended up becoming the reason he might get defeated. As Adonis hits him one more time, his protective suit completely falls apart, now exposing his wounded body. Yamato cries in pain, as his wound starts to burn in pain. Adonis is quite the genius as he tries to incorporate both science and magic in one go. However, it seems like fighting Yamato is such a hard thing to do since he doesn't really give up at all. Again, for the second time, Yamato is able to catch Adonis off guard. This time around, Adonis really fell wounded on the ground. The remaining witches are able to witness such a scene, so they start to get worried for their fate. Seeing everyone, including Ophelia, dead, and Adonis struggling to kill one enemy, some of the witches thought that this will definitely be the end of them. They have no choice but to give up. After all, the tree of life that has been keeping their kind going and thriving is now burnt to the ground, meaning there will be no more witches in this world. It's already over for the witches. Although there are some who are now willing to accept their fates, there are still some who don't want to give up yet. Some witches try to work hand in hand to support Adonis. This way, they might still have a chance to win. However, before they could even lend their hands, the human soldiers then went on ahead, shooting them all in the head. While this is happening, Adonis keeps on trying his best to put an end to Yamato. As their fight continues to intensify, Yamato does have the edge in the first part, but after a while, Adonis is able to take him down with a spell. Adonis cuts down Yamato's arm. Although it looks like he doesn't feel any pain for sure, Yamato is in great agony at this point. However, as they are now both exhausted, it seems like Adonis couldn't even move an inch. On the other side, the remaining survivors are trying to beg for their lives, but in the end, it seems like the humans will continue with their plan to wipe out everything. But before that even happens, Doroka steps right into the scene. As she shouts for them to stop, both the soldiers and Yamato seemingly obey her orders. Adonis is quite amazed by her magic, which turns out to be the magic of love, Mandragora. Doroka then introduces herself to Chief Yamato, who is still quite shocked at what is exactly happening. Doroka then concluded based on Yamato's suit and posture that he must be the commanding officer. Doroka then asks him what his name is. Yamato then does as she asks. For some reason, he doesn't know why he did answer her question, as if he is under her spell. The remaining witch survivors are now so delighted to see that Doroka will be helping them out. Some of them are happy about it, but some are wondering what she is planning to do at this stage. But if it is with her magic, then there is a big chance that it might not work in some cases. Yamato then furiously asks her to remove her spell. Although Yamato can move, it seems like Doroka has the ability to restrain the enemy's movements. Finding out about this really made Adonis excited, so he even asks her to finally kill Yamato while she still can. He wants her to cut off his head. However, being the kind witch that she is, Doroka didn't do anything to fight back at all. She tried to talk with Yamato, asking him if they could settle things in a more mature manner. She hopes that now the battle is over, they should let things end here once and for all. Doroka seemingly just wants to shake hands with Yamato and call it a day. This shocked both Yamato and Adonis, as they both didn't expect something like this at all. Although Doroka's intentions were pure, it seems like the hatred that the humans had for witches had already surpassed, to the point that with even a little sympathy, Yamato couldn't anymore give. Doroka then extends her hand, hoping that they will now come in peace. She also offered to break the spell, as long as Yamato promises that they will no longer attack the remaining witches and Adonis. Hearing all of this coming from Doroka made Adonis so furious. He even tried to slap reality into her by saying that Anna, her best friend, literally died in front of her because of these humans, who have nothing to do but hunt witches. Adonis then states that if she wants to let all those humans after killing so many of her kind, then she is completely out of her mind. This isn't some sort of game. This is literally a real war that should be taken seriously. Adonis tries to warn her that if she doesn't kill Yamato now, she might die as well. Yamato then is able to find an opening, and just like that, he starts beating the hell out of Doroka, who had nothing but good things to say. Yamato started punching her from every direction, left and right, until a big bruise can literally be seen forming on Doroka's face. It seems like the hatred that Yamato has for witches, he poured them all out to Doroka. He tried telling her that she should stop being so proud of being a witch. Yamato added that with science, humans can exterminate all witches there are. The ceasefire that Doroka wants is not happening at all. For years, witches are seen by humans as someone who always brings chaos and panic to everyone. Their existence itself harms the world. Witches are known to bring complete calamities to humans. On top of that, what Adonis did the other day made their perception of witches even worse, as many innocent people that day died in vain. That's why humans nowadays think that if it weren't for witches, such a fiend would never have been born. That's why to end all of this madness, they must kill all the witches there are. And when their existence is to be seized, it would definitely be the best thing for everyone in the world. Yamato continued by saying that if it weren't for the witch's magic, then Yuki's body wouldn't be in that state. It turns out that both humans and witches are the same. They are arrogant and vain, and a little afraid of something, but whenever they are willing to get into a bloody war, it's always for someone precious to them. On the other hand, Doroka doesn't stop at her goal to spread kindness to everyone. Beyond the barriers of magic and science, she begs Yamato to stop the cycle of death and murder once and for all. She begs him to spread kindness instead of hatred, and maybe that way they can already become friends. But instead of listening, Yamato can't keep his cool, so Doroka decided to finally use her magic once more. Yamato then started to question what is this kind of feeling that he is currently feeling at the moment. It seems like Doroka decided to use her power to control Yamato once and for all. At the moment, Yamato ended up obeying Doroka's orders, saying that he will now do as she says. However, before he can even finish what he's saying, he ends up finding himself getting killed by Adonis, who is so furious since the beginning of the fight. Adonis then tries to make Doroka realize that in the world they are living in, there is no such thing as peace and friendship. The only thing that can stop this madness is revenge, since for him, there is only revenge, no matter what she tries to say. Yamato's soldiers then started to cry and shout for his name. It seems like they also didn't anticipate such a thing to happen. After all, Yamato is one of the strongest people on the planet. Going back to Adonis and Doroka, it seems like Adonis is really quite fascinated by Doroka's magic. This is the first time he has ever heard of magic that makes one fall in love. But indeed, he sees this as one of the most powerful magics there is. Doroka, who is very firm with her principles and goals in life, asks Adonis why he did it to Yamato. Adonis then extends his hands to Doroka, asking her if she is willing to join him and destroy mankind with her powerful magic, since he thinks this is the only way they can finally end this hypocrisy. Now it is just a matter of time before we know what happens next. Will Doroka have a change of heart and join Adonis in his quest to make mankind vanish? Or will she keep her word and be the peacemaker that the whole world badly needs? Back in the Lydia Empire, at the imperial capital city New Nightmare, inside the royal castle Ivory Tower, Goth, the 23rd emperor of the Lydia Empire, is seen with his wife. After he sent out his men to raid the witches' sanctuary, it was only natural that as an emperor, he would be curious to know about how the mission was progressing. He calls one of his men to ask for an update, and he makes it clear that it's better not to be a piece of bad news since he badly wants all the witches to perish in the face of the universe. Bowing his head as a sign of respect, the soldier then stated that the mission is still ongoing, with the Hoen-kyoku unit led by Yamato still engaging with the witches in the battle as they speak. But since everyone is having a hard time fighting with these said witches, the soldier informs the emperor that everyone in the unit is finding some fierce resistance from the remnants of the witches left on the moon. And it seems like it has been growing as a problem since as of this moment, the main headquarters of the empire has also had problems communicating with the soldiers sent to the witches' sanctuary. With that said, although they wanted to give out a full update, they are afraid that the headquarters doesn't completely know the situation for now. While listening, at the back of the emperor's mind, no matter what happens, they must all ensure that all the witches must perish even if their soldiers die in the process. The soldier then assures the emperor that he is sure their forces will be victorious. The emperor's wife then asks if Adonis, the famed witch's disciple, the one who is responsible for the calamity, is seen with the other witches on the moon as well. The soldier immediately stated that Adonis probably is there considering all witches have grown closer to him. This somehow made the emperor relieved and happy, as he also had plans to take down Adonis together with the witch's kind. Instead of worrying about his soldiers, the emperor just keeps blabbering about how he badly wants to kill all the witches, and that brat Adonis who hates humanity so much. While laughing out loud, the emperor expressed how pleasant he was feeling today, as he felt like everything would just go perfectly as planned. But he doesn't deny the fact that indeed those witches are a pain, as they don't know when to give up and even have to flee to the moon. However, it seems like the emperor is very confident that he has already done it, that he has already destroyed everyone in that said sanctuary. Laughing so loud, the emperor started acting odd, which made the soldier uncomfortable. The queen then assures everyone that the emperor is alright, as he sometimes acts like a child due to his rare condition that everyone now is aware of. After a little while, something unexpected happened. Since the queen has been doing this for the longest time already, she can't help but finally do as she has always planned since the beginning. Using a love spell, she whispers into the ears of the emperor, thanking him for all the efforts he has made for the witch hunt. Now that the plan is already coming to life, she instructs the emperor to die immediately on his own. Unconsciously, the the Emperor runs to the edge of the palace as everyone plays music in the background. The soldier with them started panicking as he didn't have any idea what was happening at that moment. As the scene continuously intensifies, the Emperor keeps running while stating that he is happy that he has already done everything she has asked of him. With a devilish smile, the Queen looks satisfied that things are going as she has planned them to be. As soon as the Emperor found the perfect edge in which he could jump off, he immediately climbed, planning to plan and fly. The soldier tries to stop him, asking him to get down as soon as possible. However, it seems like no one will be able to stop the Emperor from doing what he is asked of. Teary-eyed, Emperor Goth expresses how much he loves his wife, saying that he wants to be her servant forever. Acting as if she cares, the Queen thanks the Emperor for his sweet words, but it seems like the Queen doesn't have any patience left as she keeps on telling the Emperor to finally die. The Emperor then closes his eyes, looking all peaceful as he leans forward towards his death. As soon as he fell to the ground, the surroundings went silent for a good moment. On the other hand, the soldiers with them was stunned by what he just witnessed, so as a result, he calls on for backup. But before the call can even reach the other line, the Queen uses her love spell magic, hypnotizing the soldier into believing that the king only slipped and fell to his death. As a result, the soldier ended up reporting to the headquarters that they needed to send a forensic team as soon as possible, instead of reporting that the Queen committed murder. A few moments later, a man with a hat and glasses enters the scene. The Queen then revealed that her magic does work on all men and not women, which makes her race so problematic. That's why before her enemies get to her, she'll make sure to get to them first. The eyeglass guy then stated that this simply means that the world now belongs to the Queen, which the Queen immediately shuts down, saying that she doesn't want this world at all. As a turn of events, it turns out that the Queen is actually the reincarnation of Dorothy, the witch that runs through the ensemble verse. She's also referred to as the Witch of the Unknown, a witch that has been feared by many witches and humans. However, on top of that, it seems like she's been keeping an eye on Adonis, who genuinely has her utmost interest in being the only human witch's disciple in history. Going back to Adonis at the witch's sanctuary, after seeing Doroka's full potential, Adonis asks her to join hands with him in destroying humans together. But fearlessly, Doroka immediately shuts down his offer, saying that she doesn't want to work with him at all. With no hope, Adonis accepts Doroka's decision, but he asks her not to break the spell just yet. While the love spell of Doroka keeps on lingering around, Adonis finds this as the perfect opportunity to kill the other soldiers looking around. As Adonis slices them off one by one, Doroka tries to stop him, saying that this is not the best move to make if they want peace for each kind. However, the anger inside Adonis doesn't flinch at all, so instead of listening to Doroka, he keeps on killing one human after another. As blood continuously spills, Doroka stays still and silent, just witnessing everyone die in front of her. At the back of her mind, no matter what she does, it will all be useless since Adonis is definitely out of control. Without any choice, although she doesn't want to use it, if she wants to preserve peace, she needs to use one of her deadly spells. As Adonis notices that Doroka started to lock him as her target, he goes on to say for her to do it immediately if she wants to die again, that is. This shocked Doroka a little, but her principle of using peace to solve things doesn't change. She tells Adonis that nothing will change if he keeps on killing humans due to anger. If he plans to take revenge, it will only lead to another deadly revenge. She tries to talk him out of it, saying that she fully understands that he is angry because humans have taken away someone so precious to him. But if he responds with violence, they will never be able to return to the days when witches and humans lived in harmony. In turn of all these things, peace will be even more distant than it already used to be. But knowing Adonis, that is not what he is aiming for, since for him, there is no such thing as true peace between humans and witches. Back at Lydia Empire, inside the new Nightmare Capital National Science Department HQ, every head is having a meeting as to what may have been happening to the mission in the Witch's Sanctuary. It seems like everyone is confused as to what is going on with the troops they've sent, considering everyone is not showing up at all. One of the workers then stated that the cameras of all board units were down, which made the heads believe that their men might have been wiped out during battle. However, they seem to be very confident that such a thing wouldn't happen, considering that Director Yamato is there with the team too. But to be sure, they made sure to recover all the footage as quickly as possible. After a few tries, they then received a signal from individual terminals. Surprisingly, it's Yamato. The great soldier then tells everyone to tell the world that the humans have won. He wants to pass the important news to the Majesty as soon as possible. Although the battle was fierce, they lost many promising soldiers except for him. So Yamato says he's sorry to everyone for not being able to help his comrades. With that said, he's the only one who will return to Earth, so there's no need for backup. Some of the soldiers back home thought that this was the real deal. However, it seems like the head doesn't fall for the trap. Adonis, who acted like Yamato, stated that the Empire should immediately get him as he wanted to see Earth again. To make it even more exciting, he also stated that he had the witch's disciple's head as a souvenir. As the call ended, Adonis immediately went on to get Doroka to come get her and take her wherever he went. However, it seems like Doroka firmly doesn't want to join up with him, so she resists all she can and even slaps Adonis right in the face to snap reality back at him. Doroka then went on to ask Adonis what he thought Chloe would think if she saw his current situation. Hearing the name Chloe made Adonis sad for a moment, so instead of letting go of Doroka, he immediately starts their transfer even though she doesn't want to. As they go on, the leader of the witches then states at the back of her mind how she badly wishes that divine judgment falls upon him. Before she completely loses consciousness, she says her sorries for getting all the witches' hopes high. No matter how much she tried to, it seems like she just couldn't regain the witch's honor. With her now on the verge of dying, she says her last farewell to the world as she lies peacefully in the kingdom of ruin. Meanwhile, while on the way back to Earth, Adonis couldn't help but look back to the witch's sanctuary, saying his sorries for everything that had happened. As the transfer continues, the point coordinate setting has now been completed. With only seconds before Adonis and Doroka reach Earth once again, everyone in the headquarters is on high alert, since the head has seen through Adonis' scheme. Knowing that every one of their soldiers died in the battle, including the great Yamato, the soldiers couldn't help but avenge everyone. With only 3 seconds left before arrival, everyone is now in place and is ready to take action as soon as the witch's disciple lands. Without energy, Doroka stands up looking into the sky. Full of wounds and scars, she stands on her feet losing control due to gravity. Adonis then tells her to look above the sky. As their eyes look up on the stars, Adonis informs her that what they are currently seeking is the Southern Cross, a crux constellation. This means that they are finally back on Earth. Hearing the word Earth somehow made Doroka stunned, as she never expected that they'd be back on this planet anytime soon. On the other hand, Adonis then continues by saying that he is delighted they are back, since he is already planning to conquer Lydia as soon as possible. They plan to start from small things until they reach the top. While they peacefully got silent for a bit, a loud pixel sound was heard. Within just seconds, Doroka started screaming for Adonis' name, asking for him to let her go, saying that some of the witches were still alive. That's why she must get and save them as soon as possible. But before she can flee back to the moon, Adonis suddenly becomes happy when the system commands them to change the coordinates of their transfer destination. Knowing that this is all Director Yamato's doing, Adonis can't even be happier knowing that he can already attack towns and villages in the northern hemisphere. With that, they are now on their way to Lydia. But before going on their first mission, they first need the information and supplies ready as soon as possible. And also finding a bunch of medicine should be one of their top priorities. But Doroka's love for her kind weighs more than anything. That's why no matter what Adonis tells her to do, she will go back to where the other witches are. Hearing this made Adonis furious. As a result, he started screaming at her, saying that she was stupid for having such feelings towards her kind. For Adonis, there is no way the witches on the moon would survive in that situation. However, it seems like Doroka doesn't want to believe that everyone is already dead. Even though it may hurt, she will go back to the witch's sanctuary since she knows that it is her only home. On the other hand, Adonis, who doesn't give a damn about anyone, started calling her a spoiled brat for caring and worrying about her kind. Hearing Adonis say those words somehow infuriated the inner demon in Doroka. As the anger starts to rise up, while crying, Doroka states that a man like Adonis who only cares about revenge shouldn't say such a thing. After all, he's nothing but a demon who only cares for himself. To make her feel guilty, Adonis uses his summoning magic writing style to recollect her memories. One by one, Adonis shows her the memories of her begging for peace with the humans. However, no matter how much she tried, she always ended up being ostracized among the witches. And her wanting to get back together with the humans somehow makes her crazy and out of her mind. Hearing these words come from Adonis somehow made her disappointed, since she has always looked up to him since the beginning. She is among those many witches who always wanted to know what kind of disciple the great witch Chloe had chosen. She was always curious to know. After all, a human for a witch's disciple isn't something that everyone witnesses that frequently. That's why knowing more about someone who is literally living in two worlds is just a privilege to many. After Doroka learned of him, she somehow thought that he could serve as the bridge between humans and witches. Thinking that would be the case, Doroka had high hopes for him. As a result, Adonis tells her that she doesn't know anything about him at all. Losing hope, Doroka asks him how far is he going to go with this. He must have realized from the fight on the moon that just as much as he hates humans, humans will never forgive him for what he did as well. As a result, this conflict will never end. If they don't cut it off somewhere, the hate will never disappear from the world. However, it seems like no matter what Doroka says, her words don't mean anything to Adonis at all. Since for him, Chloe's life is more precious than the lives of all humans. That's why the world that took her away should also be destroyed. This anger inside of him somehow caused a lot of witches to die in the process. However, it seems like Adonis doesn't care about them at all. He even sees them as a good diversion he can use for his plan. Hearing this made Doroka furious, since she knew very well how the witches were so desperate to survive the last witch hunt. And for a human like Adonis saying that he respects their lives more than anything else, he also added that even though she already saw some of her friends dying in the battle, she still wanted to be at peace with humans and let them get away with it. However, Doroka truly believes that choosing revenge won't heal his wounds at all. But Adonis doesn't care about it at all. After all, he has nothing to lose anymore. As he lifts Doroka in the air after spitting those words, he drops her to the ground and then walks away. Before he can even get that far, Doroka rushes towards him, pinning him to the ground, saying that even Chloe, the only witch that he cares for, has someone she protected. Doroka went on to say that she's not telling him to forgive the humans, but if he continues to take revenge, someday he will lose his heart fully, and by the end of it, he would be like those humans who took Chloe away from him. That's why, even though he feels like he doesn't have anything left for him to protect, he will always have something to lose in the end. While crying, Doroka then lets go of him. Contemplating, Adonis seemingly still thinks that revenge is the only way. For him, it is the proof of existence. That is the precious proof that Chloe lived with him for all these years. Since if he stops getting revenge, all trace of her existence will be gone. However, no matter how much he tries to explain it, there's no way that she would fully understand. After all, Doroka doesn't know what he is feeling inside. While they are having an emotional scene, hugging each other underneath the moonlight, men in motorcycles are seen in the area. As they take notice of the two, they immediately decide to take them in after thinking they might be slaves from the city that escaped. However, after seeing that the two are well dressed, the group doesn't anymore know what to do. As a result, they decided to ask the wasteland polluters leader, Punch, to do the deciding. The next day, Adonis woke up in an unfamiliar place. Inside a room full of beer bottles and scattered papers, Adonis slowly opens up his eyes only to get immediately sick of waking up in places he doesn't even know. With a body that is a little bit achy, Adonis tries to recollect what happened after he blacked out. After a moment, he suddenly remembers what happened the other day. A group of men on their motorcycles were spotted in the same location as they were at that time. While he is lying on the ground, Doroka is seen a bit petrified at what is happening. As the men surround them both, Doroka tries to ask for their help since Adonis is injured. Aside from that, since they are already lost, a little help might be a good thing for them. As Doroka tries to beg for their assistance, Adonis is seen helpless and tired on the ground. Remembering all of these gave Adonis the idea that maybe the place where he currently is might be those bikers' base. Then unexpectedly, a man enters the room, quite shocked to see that Adonis is already awake. As he looks into Adonis's eyes, fearlessness envelops him, making Adonis's stare as scary as possible. It's as if he's going to murder someone. Together with some weird-looking pets, the biker takes a sip on his beer bottle. He then offered Adonis a drink since for them, beers serve as their best friend when it comes to recovering. However, it seems like Adonis isn't interested at all, as he refers to it as just a sewage drink that only pollutants drink. Instead of getting insulted, the man just kept on laughing, saying that Adonis is indeed a funny one for calling the greatest invention of mankind sewage. But instead of getting all physical, the man decided to introduce himself, saying that his name is Punch, and he ran the whole place. Punch's statement gave Adonis the idea that the place may have been a settlement, but the weird thing is that it doesn't even look like it's under Lydia's control. Since he doesn't know much about these men in the place, Adonis just asks where Doroka is now and what the men did to her. Remembering who this girl Adonis is talking about, Punch decided to take him to her himself to avoid starting any commotion. It turns out that Doroka took care of Adonis a while ago, until Punch's men then took her somewhere. Scared of the fact that something might have happened to her, Adonis immediately reacted furiously, so Punch decided to take him to her as soon as possible. As soon as they got out of the room, Adonis was shocked to see mountains of scrap metals. It turned out they are currently inside the wastelands, which is a place where the leftovers of the Industrial Revolution are currently living. I mean, just looking at the whole landscape, it really is a land left to rot on its own. In this said place, people from developing countries, refugees, slaves who escaped from the Lydia Empire, and people that were left behind by science all drifted to this place. At the end of the day, no matter where anyone came from, they all became pollutants in these wastelands. Just by looking at the current condition of the place, Adonis can only describe it as a pitiful scene to see, which Punch doesn't disagree with at all. While they are still on their way to Doroka, a number of men rush towards her. As she calls for help, asking someone to make it stop, Adonis immediately reacts as she may be in danger. As a result, he jumps off the building trying to save her in time. However, it seems like he was wrong all along. It turns out that the men didn't plan to do anything bad. In fact, they all flock to her to help her learn how to drive the motorcycle. However, no matter how much they try, it seems like she is still having a hard time learning it on her own, and is even scared to fall down. Not knowing how to even stop the whole machine, Doroka asks for someone to help her stop it immediately. Some men tell her to raise her hips and use her knees as bumpers. She slowly gets all of their instructions and uses them in practice. After a while, she is able to control it at last. She then takes notice of Adonis. Adonis then asks her what is she doing right now. So happy to see Adonis awake, Doroka loses balance for a moment, causing her to crash to the ground. However, instead of worrying for herself, she nonetheless asks Adonis if his injuries are already okay or not. She then jumps out of the hole and tells Adonis how sorry she is. She also hands over a token to make peace with all the bad things she was able to tell him before. Looking at the miniature dolls Doroka made, immediately Adonis throws them off the ground, saying that he doesn't need them at all. Shocked by what Adonis did, Doroka can't do much about it considering Adonis just woke up from being knocked out. Before she even gets all emotional, Punch calls for everyone's attention, saying that they are having a feast so everyone should gear up. Since Punch also saved Doroka and Adonis' life, he asks them to at least pour him a drink as well. As the night falls, everyone in the wasteland gathers around the bonfire, enjoying their gold beer drinks, laughing and just having some fun. As they chug on the beer, they all seem to lose it so much. Meanwhile, as everyone enjoys, Doroka starts working as a waitress to attend to everyone's needs. However, instead of getting all grumpy and tired, it seems like Doroka is very happy that she is able to serve everyone to her best. As she got closer to everyone, Doroka kept on having fun, especially with the men who look at her now as a little sister. However, no matter how much fun the feast is, it seems like Doroka will never be happy unless Adonis also has a little fun just like her. Seeing him all alone in the corner makes her sad. Since the other boys did notice her eyes saddened for a bit, they all asked whether she and Adonis were fighting or what. Immediately, she clarified to everyone that she and Adonis were not dating at all. The boy then asks if she's not with him, why are they even in the wastelands together? As a result, no matter how much she keeps on denying that they are not together, the man keeps on believing that the two are definitely dating. As they kept on asking her questions as to whether the two of them were refugees or not, since Doroka didn't know what to say, she just kept on saying that they were both travelers who decided to go around the globe together. The men then laugh hard as to if one in the right mind would want to travel to the wastelands. After having so much fun, they all suddenly fall and lose consciousness. Doroka started to panic as she didn't know what to do. Not really knowing what just happened, she tried to wake some of them up. However, no matter how much she tries, they all end up knocked out. Adonis then comes closer, informing Doroka that the bikers might have drunk something bad that was mixed with the beer, causing them to feel sick. Shocked by what just happened, Doroka asks Adonis what he just did, and if he indeed poisoned the men's drinks. Adonis then stated that what he mixed inside it wasn't poison at all. It turns out that he just made a slight alteration to the drinks, changing some of the alcohol composition. As a result of it, the drink became a sleeping drug that knocked out the men. Adonis then jokingly stated that Doroka doesn't seem to be the witch she calls herself, considering she didn't even notice the spell he had put around the barrel. A bit embarrassed, she asked whether anyone had died at all. However, the next thing that happened was something she didn't anticipate at all. Adonis shows off one of his pistols. So, before he can even kill them, Doroka tries to stop him on time. "Wait a minute," she said, adding that he got the wrong idea if he thinks these people are actually bad people. With a wide smile on her face, Doroka states that these men are one of the kindest people on Earth. She explained that these bikers were the ones who had helped them both in the middle of the desert and gave them medicines to drink and bandages for their wounds. However, despite all that, Adonis still sees them as the villain in the story after what happened to Chloe. As a result, no matter what Doroka says, he will still go on with his plans, even though these people are the reason why he is still alive now. One more time, Doroka tries to make him realize that these bikers literally saved their lives. However, for Adonis, mercy will only make enemies. So no matter what Doroka says, he will still go on with his plans. With sadness and worry in her eyes, Doroka kept on telling him that if it weren't for these people, he'd be gone by now. Unexpectedly, Adonis assures her that he won't kill them at all, since for him, these pollutants are lower than humans and are not worthy of killing at all. So he walks past her, he turns back, revealing his sudden decision to leave her behind, since just as he thought, he doesn't need her after all. This shocked Doroka so much. As the emotion rushes in her, she doesn't know how to react anymore. As Adonis walks out and says goodbye, she immediately follows him without hesitation. Before he can even get far, she asks why he came up with such a sudden decision. Not even looking, Adonis explains that when he lost his loved ones, he could never bring himself to laugh around as Doroka did earlier with the bikers. However, he can't even imagine being happy after losing someone dear to him. However, it seems like Doroka wasn't bothered at all. Aside from that, he doesn't also see himself getting chummy with these people. With that said, Adonis came to the conclusion that he and Doroka are indeed different. Before Adonis can even say another word, Doroka explains that she did all this so that the bikers don't find out her identity, since she clearly knows what would happen if these people knew about it. As a result, even though emotionally hard, she decided to blend in with those humans for her safety. She has to act and behave, so nobody will suspect her of being a witch. Even though it was tiring and hard, she decided to hide the truth and pain with a wide smile. But that doesn't mean that she is fine with what happened to her kind. Crying her eyes out, she pours all these heavy feelings towards Adonis, who only thinks of himself. Even though he already heard her reason, Adonis still acted coldly toward her, saying that he wished her to stay alive, without even thinking that she might not make it on her own. As he walks away, Doroka is left alone, now on her own. She stayed emotional for a while until some of the bikers' pets tried to cheer her up. After a few seconds, Punch then enters the scene, asking her where Adonis is. Knowing that he already left, Punch can't help but express how disappointed he is towards Adonis. He now sees him as a shameless bastard, who just left without even thanking him. On top of that, leaving a girl all alone isn't as manly either. However, at the back of Doroka's mind, she still believes that Adonis is a really kind person. Meanwhile, somewhere in the desert, Adonis is seen sweating through the scorching heat of the sun. As he continues on his journey alone, memories of Doroka keep flashing back, causing him to think twice. A little while later, it seems like Adonis didn't get that far from the wastelands. A loud thud and massive smoke clouded them and started to approach him, causing him to believe that they may have chased him after all. He starts to question if the effect of the sleeping drug was weak or if it was the Lydian army who is now after him. No matter what the case is, he doesn't care anymore as he plans to kill anyone who gets in his way. As a result, he starts to warm up, casting his magic spells, and is ready to lock onto his target. Meanwhile, back to the wastelands, surprisingly, Punch actually knows who Adonis really is. It seems like he has already seen Adonis' face before, since that was one of the days in his life that he will never forget at all. During that time, he was already on the brink of dying when he saw Adonis together with the Ice Witch. If his memory serves him right, he clearly remembers that Adonis and Chloe were one of the happiest people he has ever met. This made him realize that the peak of happiness is measured when some things are important enough to make the world one's enemy. With that said, there might be a big chance that Doroka is right with her peaceful talks, but in the end, whether revenge is good or bad, there's no way to settle it. So for her own good, she might want to cover her eyes in the world since everything here is subjective. So if Adonis chooses revenge, even if it turns out to be a journey to death, it is still his choice. So it is only up to Doroka what she will do about it. Since she doesn't want anyone to die in the process, especially Adonis, she decides to go after him no matter what. Thankfully, she is still on time and is able to chase after him. She promises not to drive fast so that they can go together safely. She added that she has been thinking about it and came to the conclusion that it is not safe for him to travel alone. On top of that, he might become lonely as well. This somehow made Adonis tear up a little. After a few seconds, Punch arrives, warning Adonis not to make Doroka cry so much. Meanwhile, back in the Lydia Empire, everyone is busy with the Queen's big coronation day. At 9 p.m. in the night, every citizen is anticipating the arrival of their new emperor. Although crowded and tight, everyone is happy to take part in the Queen's big day. Kids and adults are in one place, cheering for their leader. To make the whole event even more enjoyable, cute robotic-looking mascots arrive, entertaining everyone in the event. Meanwhile, among the crowd is a man named Oz, one of the Queen's men who is surveying the whole boulevard. There are only around 20 minutes left before the coronation, and everyone starts to pay tribute to the passing of their beloved emperor. Since that day, the people of the Lydia Empire have spent many sleepless nights. As a result, in their memory of the great emperor who brought prosperity to the country, they will now hand over the throne to a new emperor who will continue that legacy. With that said, the MC then introduces the formerly Queen Andromeda, who is now known as Empress Dorothy. As her image is flashed on the screen, everyone screams in excitement, saying that she is awesome and beautiful from any angle. Girls can't explain what they are feeling, while boys start to get crazy about her. Everyone, including those back at home, is anticipating her coronation. Netizens started commenting online that they were starting to get fond of her as she is one of the most beautiful and sexy women they have ever met. Seeing how gorgeous she is, everyone seems so certain that the country will have a bright future for sure. Meanwhile, somewhere in the world, others are also anticipating Dorothy's big day. A man with long hair who seems like part of a dragon group is seen contemplating how Dorothy has the nerve to destroy her own kind with science and reign as an empress herself. What's shocking is the fact that she's not even guilty about it. All of these happenings, all because of one witch, is somehow even crazier than the prophecy itself. As Dorothy is savoring the best moment of her life, at the same time, somewhere in the southern hemisphere back in the wastelands, the Lydian Empire Intel Department head, the White Rabbit, is seen. He himself is seen giving all his attention on the witch's big day. It turns out that Dorothy is actually his childhood friend, who has now suddenly become everyone's idol. This fact somehow makes him emotional. But before he gets indulged in his own thoughts, he will focus on his mission first. As he checks on his tablet, he sees that Adonis is indeed one smart kid. It seems like the tablet's destroyed, so he can't track him anymore. Well, that means he doesn't have any choice but to put some effort into finding Adonis, who has now got the goddess's love and attention. Meanwhile, somewhere in the wastelands, Adonis and Doroka are seen wandering the area on their motorcycle. Doroka asks him what he is planning to do now. Adonis then made it clear that he had no intention of quitting on his revenge. In that case, Doroka suggested that he should avoid picking a fight with kind people like Punch. However, it seems like Adonis has no plans of doing so. Even though he already allowed her to come with him, it doesn't mean that she can already get on his way. With that said, Doroka then nods immediately to assure Adonis that she will do as he says to her. Aside from that, it seems like Adonis has something to confirm about her magic. It is known that love magic is a magic that gives someone the ability to make a man fall in love by manipulation. Since Doroka possesses such magic, Adonis is quite confused as to why she didn't even use it on him when they first met in Lydia's empire when Ophelia ordered her to abduct him, even if it meant using love magic. Doroka explained that she didn't want to meet him that way, since that would be the worst. After traveling for a good minute, the two finally arrived at Sandland, which is a small town a few miles from the wastelands. As they entered the town's gate, they're shocked to see that no one is seen around. So to be sure, Adonis checks the area. However, it seems like Doroka wants to be with him as well. But before they start roaming around, Adonis asks her what's up with the bag she is bringing. She then explained that Punch gave her a lot of things, like canned goods, bread, and some random things like a tent. Before she can even continue with her comments, Adonis decides to finally start moving. After roaming around for a bit, they realize that the place was indeed a ghost town. However, what's weird is, Adonis doesn't see any signs of war at all. As they continued wandering around, they finally reached one of the biggest buildings in the town so far. To find any clues, they decided to check it out for a bit. As they entered, they came across a police hologram. They then continued going deeper inside the building until they reached the prison where someone was heard singing a song. As they check it out, Doroka is very much stunned to see someone inside the prison cell, all by herself.